everybody. Welcome back to the Academy North, the Evening Session podcast. Back with Henry Eccles. How are you, Hennes?
Yeah, good, mate. Feeling nicely revitalised over Christmas. Been watching the Traitors as well, so I'm here for some drama. I can't get enough of it.
That's all you want to talk about. And today we're joined by Ellie Threlkeld. How are you, Ellie?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Are you watching the Traitors? Should we get that out of the way first?
I'm not, no, but my mum is, and she keeps telling me to watch it, so maybe I'll have to give it a go.
That's ruined Henry's topic of conversation there, I think.
Yeah, take that out of the quickfires one now. Take that out of the quickfires.
So how's your winter going, Ellie? What have you been up to?
Yeah, it's going well, thanks. First winter at home for a while, so it's a little bit different, but I've actually quite enjoyed, sort of getting into a routine and stuff. And then managed to do sort of my AC joint in my shoulder, week one, session one. So spent a few weeks rehabbing that, which isn't ideal, but now back fully fit now. Still got a couple of months till pre-season tour, so just putting in a few weeks hard work really till then.
When you're so used to going away during the winters, how hard is it to find the routine in the off season at home?
Yeah, to be honest, the routine's the bit I find easy. Like I thrive off of routine, and obviously as a cricketer, that's really hard, especially sort of in the summer when you're living out of a bag on a bus all the time and here, there, and everywhere. So it's actually quite nice to have a bit of structure. But I think like the main thing's the weather for me. Like I keep seeing everyone I know is in Sydney. Like I keep opening Instagram and I've stopped scrolling because it makes me feel really sad. Everyone's in the sun, so it's more the weather for me. Like luckily we're training indoors, which is good. But I quite like the routine. It's just love to be in the sun all the time, really.
Following it round. Are you have you started pre-season training properly now? Are you fully in?
Yeah. So we started on the 1st of November. So we start pretty early. We get October off as our off season. And then sort of pre-Christmas looks very much sort of fitness based and technical stuff. And then this part of the year is like getting back b-ball back and trying to sort of make it a little bit more game specific leading into sort of pre-season tour. So
where are you off to on tour?
We are in Dubai for a few days and then in India, I think. I'm not sure which part yet, but we did that last year and went to Bangalore for a couple of weeks,
Nice.
which was brilliant. Like facilities were great and stuff. And I think like India as a cricketer is like exactly where you want to go. Like the culture and how big cricket is out there is just amazing. So looking forward to heading back there.
And in the meantime, you've been in South America, did I see on your Instagram? What was that one all about?
Yeah, so random. So one of our girls, Tara Norris, plays cricket for USA because she was born there. So obviously through that, like has played against loads of associate nations and Brazil and Argentina being two of them. She came home from a tri-series with them and was like, they've just got no support, and I just really want to I think it'd be great for us to go out there and do a bit of coaching. And it started off as a bit of like a pipe dream, if you like. And Tara often has these ideas, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that'll never happen. And then next thing, we sort of got some sponsors behind us, and it was looking more and more likely we were going to go. And I was like, could be happening this. And then the dates fitted in really well because obviously with like the time of year and stuff, like they were pretty in their cricket season and stuff. So for us to have October off, we went out there for 3 or 4 weeks, did a couple of weeks in Brazil, a couple of weeks in Argentina, coaching their national teams. And again, like incredible experience, not a part of the world I think I would ever go. I didn't actually ever think cricket would take me there either. So, but yeah, no, it was amazing. And great to see sort of that part of the world and get stuck in as well. And obviously a bit of a different experience. Like I've done quite a bit of coaching in my career, but like I've never coached people who don't speak English, so it was a different challenge as well. But yeah, I loved it.
How's your Spanish?
Terrible, absolutely terrible. And also, I think so. Brazil, they spoke Portuguese, so it was like, which is very similar to Spanish, but isn't Spanish. So again, like I had no idea. I did it at GCSE, but not very well. So they were all laughing, saying Ellie can barely speak English, and I did struggle out there, to be fair. So.
We've done some research before you came on here, Ellie, and I was on your Instagram looking at like the videos of the befores and after them of the coaching, and honestly, and I'm not just saying this, the difference was remarkable. I sent it to Matty being like, you need to get her involved here, because it was going from like way down like side to dead straight on. I was like dead impressed. I was just thinking like, is this something that you're considering sort of taking part in after you finish playing? Not necessarily in South America either. Something maybe a little bit more domestic.
Yeah, we were actually laughing about them videos because the four of us who went out there, so Tara, Norris and Phoebe Graham, very much fast bowling specialists. Fee Morris batting and fielding, and then myself as batting and wicket keeping. So we sort of covered all disciplines, which was nice. And then it ended up that Tara and Phoebe's left a little bit earlier. So me and Fee were like basically in charge, and we were both looking at each other like, goodness me, how are we going to take on these fast bowlers here? But no, so we were laughing about them videos. But I've always sort of dabbled in coaching throughout my career. I think obviously with the way women's cricket became professional, it never happened overnight. So there was a period of time where I needed to earn money on the side anyway, and that was a good avenue for me to do that. But yeah, it's something I've always enjoyed, and now carry on doing it, not necessarily for the money, but just for enjoyment, really. And I also sort of like, I'm nearly qualified as a sports psych, so I do that on the side of cricket. And people keep asking me what I'm going to do post cricket, like coach, sports psych, and I actually found South America like an amazing opportunity to do both. So we were sort of working with the girls. Well, I was working with the girls from a sports psych point of view, but then training would be straight after that. And it was how we could sort of integrate it and implement it into that environment. And it was a nice sort of way to do both. And yeah, I'm not really sure what my future looks like, but I think either or a combination of both, I definitely find both of them really enjoyable and rewarding. So I guess I've got options, but hopefully I'm going to play for a few more years yet anyway. But yeah, no, I do think it'd be something I'd enjoy.
Yeah, so we were sort of hoping you'd mention the sports psych stuff, really, because I'm at uni currently reading psychology. So like that's nice. Right up my street. I love it. So I was sort of having a look at like what you do. And I saw you offer sort of this free consultation thing initially, where they like 30 minutes with whoever's interested. I was just sort of wondering, when you're carrying that out, what is exactly are you looking for? Is it sort of for each person that comes on, do you know sort of beforehand it's like a little bit scripted, you know what you're going to talk about with each person? There's important things that everyone needs to work on, or is it genuinely get a sense of the individual and then sort of adapt having looked at that?
Yeah, so it is pretty sort of scripted from my end, but in terms of just like in that 30 minutes, I want to get to know somebody. I think a massive part of what I do is built on having a good sort of relationship with somebody. So that 30 minutes to just be very sort of informal, get to know each other, but also find out what sort of they need help with, because as much as like I want to help everybody, sometimes it will be out of my scope as well. Like you might have a couple of issues that are clinical or something that I don't feel like I can help with. So it's basically a get to know each other chat, but also like ensuring that I'm the right fit for that person to help with, really. And quite often I find like I've done quite a lot of work in elite sport, and quite often you are working with an athlete and time is very precious there. And quite often you work with an athlete for half an hour, and like athletes are all very similar, and I'm the same. They want a quick fix and they want something that they can take away right there and then. But I find when I work with clients away from like in a sporting team, if you like, it's quite handy to have like a period of sort of 6 sessions or whatever they want or willing to have, to sort of work consistently with that athlete. Because I think, like, again, I'm the same, like people just want a magic wand to fix something, but actually like the mental side of the game like does require a bit of practice as well, just as the physical stuff would be. So yeah, that first session's really sort of informal and a get to know each other, but almost setting up and framing the next sort of sessions and what they could look like.
Oh, okay. So is the focus more on, because obviously there's such a large mental aspect to cricket, like just within the game, your technique, what you're thinking while you're batting or you're bowling. Is the focus for you more on that, or is it the external pressures and sort of how reducing possibly external pressures that aren't really to do with cricket, could be to do with home life or anything like that? Is it more a focus on reducing them that will in turn sort of domino effect and have a positive impact on your cricket?
It's a combination of both, to be honest. I think like as an athlete, obviously your main focus is performance. So you get some people come in with some performance anxiety issues, which is pretty common, but you often find like when you dig into that actually the external stuff will be affecting that. And Everyone's got their own philosophy as a practitioner, and mine is very holistic. And I think that's come from my own experience as an athlete. So I've grown up obviously practicing cricket, but at the time, a professional career was never something that was on offer, really. So I've always had to study on the side. I've been through a period of the first couple of years having to earn money on the side because the pay wasn't enough, and all of these external things do affect your performance. So I think, like, for some athletes that won't be the case, and it'll be purely, okay, how can we deal with your performance anxiety? But for some athletes, actually, like, their problem, it will be stemming from other places, and other things will be contributing towards that. So yeah, it's very much individual, and that's the way I sort of like to practice. Is I believe that every athlete's individual and on their own journey, and yeah, sort of be as holistic as I can. And that's definitely come from my own experience, but I've definitely found the work I've done in different environments. So I work a day a week at Sale Sharks, again, very similar in terms of they're in this transition period of professionalism, and you've got people working full-time jobs, you've got people doing so many other things outside of rugby. Is that, like, how can we make that better? I've supported a lot of athletes who are dual career with their studies as well, and again, that's something I've been through. And it's definitely, you get periods of real stressful time. So if there's a deadline coming up, like, that will definitely be affecting their performance. So it's very much individual, but that definitely comes into it. Yeah. So try and just be as holistic as possible and deal with each athlete on an individual basis and support them as and how I can, really.
That's really interesting, sort of listening to you talk about your own personal experiences. Would you say that this thing with sports psychology, is that something that impacted your game when you were younger, and so that sort of inspired you to, like, sort of look into it and do more with sports psychology? Or was it a case of you started looking into sports psychology and then it started impacting your game? Was it like sort of like a chicken and an egg question, really? Like, what came first for you in that sense?
I think I sort of fell into studying sports psychology. So I was on an England program for cricket at the time, and I was never in college, so I didn't really achieve what I wanted to in my A levels. But again, at the time, like, women's cricket wasn't professional, so in order for me to carry on sort of training and have decent cricket support, I needed to go to Loughborough University, and psychology was the only course that would let me on with the grades I got at A level. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just go there. If I get a degree out of this, then brilliant. If not, I'll have a few years playing cricket at Loughborough. Brilliant. So I studied it, found it really interesting, and then it went from there, really. And I went on from doing that to studying a master's, which was in sports psychology. So that then became more specific. And I think throughout my studies, the more I could relate it to my own game, the more I realised how important it was. And I think, like, I was probably a player who's probably struggling with a lot of performance anxiety, but didn't realise. And then the more I studied it, the more I understood it, and then the more I could apply it to my own game. So I wouldn't say it's something I, like, struggled with and realised, and then I started studying it. It was more of I fell into studying it and then realised that it's quite a huge part of the game that's often quite ignored. And I was exactly the same, ignored it growing up, didn't think it was important. And then, yeah, the more I studied it, the more I realised how important it was, and how looking after yourself, like, mentally as well, like, not just from a performance point of view, but that whole holistic well-being piece is, like, really important, especially as I've got older, because, like, I don't think my life balance was very good growing up. I think like sport was everything to me. I'd throw everything into that, and then studying on the side, and, like, it was so busy that I struggled to manage that. Whereas now I see the sports psych stuff as a real brilliant release from me and my cricket. I think, like, obviously being captain and stuff the last few years, like, it's mentally tough at times, and you're on this, like, roller coaster throughout the season. And actually, like, doing something completely different within sport, something I love, something I'm interested in, like, really gets me out of that environment, and I think it's really good for me as well. So yeah, it's like a bit of a weird one where I sort of fell into studying it and then realised, yeah, how important it was, and how much I could apply it to my own game, really.
All right. Well, last thing from me on this bit then. Like, I see, obviously, especially in the world of social media, people are really sort of aware of mental health and the importance of understanding your psychology in sport. But I always find it hard to differentiate between what is sort of pop psychology cliches that people just put as quotes on their Instagram, and then genuine sort of theories that have been backed up by testing and evidence. Is there one sort of piece of something that might be perceived as pop psychology that you actually genuinely think is really important for anyone, not necessarily a cricketer, any sort of sports person, to implement in their game something that people might perceive as a cliche, but something that genuinely you think is backed up by theory and should be implemented as much as is possible?
I guess like on social media, I see loads of sort of like stuff out there that like might not necessarily be scientifically based. But I think like with psychology, there's so many theories out there. There's so much science, and for every study that's got some research behind it, there's probably one that says the opposite. And it's a little bit like almost before when we were saying about like how can you be holistic practitioner and do exactly what's required for that athlete. It's a little bit similar. If you're scrolling through social media, you might find something that says meditation's brilliant, but actually some athletes it might not resonate with and they might not find it helpful, but that athlete might get the same benefits from going for a walk every morning. So like for as much as there's research backing some stuff up, there's also research that probably says it doesn't work, and it's about finding what works for you. Similarly, like we talk about what do you release from cricket, and a lot of people probably say about me like, oh, she's got so much going on, she's probably doing too much, like she needs to focus on a cricket more. But actually, like I can't sit still. Like I can't. If you told me to have a day off, I can't sit still and just watch the TV because it would make me feel worse. Whereas actually, if I'm engaged in something I'm really passionate about and I'm enjoying, it gives me sort of that mental switch off, even though I'm still doing something. So I think, yeah, there's loads of stuff out there, and it's literally like about what finding what works for you, really.
At least we know now why you're not watching the Traitors. Anyway, we'll get that one back in.
I know. Watching TV, I just can't do it. I get so bored.
So, Ellie, when you kindly agreed to come on this podcast, did you think it would just be a free uni lecture for Henry, or did you think we'd talk a little bit more about cricket as well?
Yeah, you can charge me £9 for that, to be fair. So, yeah.
I feel like I've learnt loads anyway. So you talked then about when you were growing up, probably that balance was difficult for you, or you had a lot going on. Wasn't just the cricket, was it? You had the football on the go as well.
Yeah.
How hard was that, kind of splitting the two and splitting your time and those decisions involved with that?
I think like growing up, like because I was just so immersed in what I was doing, I didn't really know or understand. Like, but I think like looking back, like I remember just as a kid just being exhausted all the time, and I think that's where like it's quite important to sort of realise that. And I've actually been asked to do like a parents' workshop with the Lancashire County age group girls next week. And that's one of the things I focused on is just like how can you make sure your child's got life balance, really, because I think it was something that like I'm not blaming my parents here at all, but like I just did so much and sort of just didn't realize how exhausted I was. And don't get me wrong, I've just said I like thrive off being busy and I love being busy, but like what is balance and what is too much, and again that'll be individual for everyone, but it was definitely quite tough to manage at times because I was just like playing sport all the time. And I'm someone who's quite all in on everything as well. I'm a bit all or nothing. So I'm a little bit like that with my schoolwork as well. So like I've always been pretty driven as a kid. So like I wanted to do well at school, even though like some people might not think that's important. So I was trying to balance two sports, trying to do well at school. So like in that time, you make a few sacrifices. Like I probably made lots of sacrifices socially, and like looking back on that period, it probably was really busy, but it's like I don't have any regrets necessarily. I just think I probably could have managed it better having the knowledge that I do now, but obviously you probably don't have that as a 13-year-old or whatever.
Do you think, obviously playing a high level of football as well, do you think both sort of mentally, without going back too far, and sort of technically as well, do you think having that football helped your cricket and vice versa as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think like I'm a huge advocate for playing sort of like as many sports as possible as a kid. I think it makes you a better athlete. Like I look at some of our girls in the gym who've been like gymnasts or whatever, and they're so incredibly strong. I often wish I did that, to be fair, as a gymnast. Like but no, I definitely think there's so many like crossovers. I think like playing football, like it's a different environment, but it's still a team sport, so it teaches you to sort of be a good teammate. Like elements of leadership as well. Again, like hard work, like commitment, dedication, all of them things that you require when you're an athlete. I sort of got from two sports really. And I guess like when I was younger, like cricket, the environment was never that professional because of like resources, support, etc. But like I grew up playing at Liverpool for 10 years, and like the setup there was just incredible. And I think like a lot of the way, like my leadership style, I quite like to lead by example through like my attitude, my behaviours and stuff. And I think a lot of that was instilled in me when I played at Liverpool as a youngster. So I definitely think there was a huge benefit. And like I said, from sort of a fitness point of view, it made me a better all-rounded athlete as well.
I saw a clip, Ellie, where you were talking about at 17, your ability made the decision for you about going into cricket rather than football. Was there ever a point where you were possibly feeling the other way around, where you wanted maybe to go more into footy than you did into cricket, or was cricket always the favourite, with football just sort of playing the supporting role?
Weirdly, I was always more football than cricket. I think like I've grown up in a family of huge Liverpool fans, so like almost like the pride of playing for them was like massive. And like my brother plays a bit of cricket, and like cricket was like still big in my family, but it was always football, and it still is now. Like whenever Liverpool are on, it's like a family event to watch it, and it's so big, and like that sort of pride element was huge for me. So I always wanted to play football for Liverpool. And then sort of as a youngster, if I have one regret in life, it's that I didn't get fitter quicker. Because I reckon fitness was probably one of the things that held me back as a footballer. I'm not saying I'd have gone on and made it, I probably wouldn't, but I wish I'd have got fitter quicker to see how that would have affected my game, if you like. And then as cricket sort of took off a little bit, and I was on England programmes, and I was touring with England, so I was often missing a few games, and to then try and get back in the starting 11 was really hard, and spending a lot of time on the bench. Training 3 or 4 times a week to then just stand there and watch on a Saturday on the bench, and it was becoming unenjoyable. And as a kid, you just want to play, don't you? So like that was pretty tough to just sort of stand on the sidelines. So I definitely think like I came into my last year of junior football, and at the end of that year, I'd have either got offered a reserve contract or wouldn't, and like it was pretty unlikely considering I probably had no game time that year. So at that point as well, I just started at Winstanley College, which is in Wigan, and I knew a couple of the girls played for Wigan Athletic there, and they were in a bit of a lower league, but the setup all sounded really good and stuff, and obviously I knew a few people there, so I made the decision to go there, and like it was the best decision I ever made, because I was back loving my football. I'd turn up and play 90 minutes every week, whether I'd trained or not, and I absolutely loved it. So I guess like that sort of like my love for football came back at that point, and then managed to play a little bit alongside my cricket like for a bit longer, which was good.
Well, you're on with 2 big reds at the moment, so like that we're absolutely buzzing to hear that. What were your thoughts on Forest last night? Did you watch it?
I did, yeah. It didn't play very well, did they?
Oh, I don't know.
I thought second half was all right. Last half hour was all right, but first half was terrible again, wasn't it?
Yeah, really bad. It was almost like they were like match fixing or something in the first half. It was like couldn't string any passes together, could they?
I thought they were going to go on and win it. You know, I was watching it with Tom Crew. I thought we were going to go on and win it. Just that absolute barrage of attacks there, like and Jota. When Jota came on and the goal, he was just having the game of his life. I thought we're going to win this. We're going to win this. It's going to be 90+9 again.
Yeah.
So back to cricket, Ellie. When you first sort of made your debut in the Lancashire setup, were you still playing football alongside that at that point?
Yeah, I would have been. Yeah, I think I made my debut at 14, which like sounds really young.
I'm glad you said that, by the way, because we were looking before and I was trying to figure it out what age you were when you made your debut. I said to him, it was like 14, 15.
Yeah, which sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But then at the time, like the pool of players was so small that actually like that was pretty normal. Like if someone made the debut at 14 now, that'd be like ridiculous. But like at the time, it was like quite a lot of us were that age. I grew up in quite a good age group. We all sort of had older brothers who play. So people like Emma Lamb, Sophie Eccleston, they were all my age. So like the sort of core group now of our first team, we sort of came through the age groups together, which is really nice. So yeah, when I started, I was pretty young, and there was sort of sporadic games throughout the season. It wasn't necessarily like you play once a week, or there wasn't really any consistent training. In fact, I was definitely playing football at the time, because I remember I used to play football on a Sunday afternoon for Wigan, and I would train 9 till 11 at Old Trafford indoors, and then go and play in the afternoon, 2 o'clock kickoff, and just turn up with my shinnies and just walk straight on the pitch and play. So Yeah, no, I was definitely playing football. It wasn't until I think just after, so obviously through COVID, football stopped.
Yeah.
And then I never really went back because after that, in COVID was when it sort of became professionalised. So once I got my first professional contract, our physio was like, "El, you're gonna have to knock the football on the head," which I was gutted about, but obviously understood because obviously we'd gone from hardly training to being in like full time. So probably wouldn't have been able to manage both anyway. So
When you look back to how you came through at that age, and obviously with a lot more experience now with the captaining and stuff, and younger girls coming through now, how different can you perceive their experience to be to what yours would have been then?
yeah, like vastly different. And people often ask me, actually, do you wish you were a 12-year-old now? And I actually don't, because I think like the journey like we've been on, like to see sort of what it was like to now what it is like was actually really special. And I think like to be sort of part of
Yeah.
that and driving that change is something we've often spoke about. And one of our team values is to try and inspire the next generation. And I think that's like really big for us. And yeah, the journey's been brilliant. So I wouldn't change it for the world. But I often, yeah, do look at the youngsters now and I think, like, goodness me, you've got a real bright future ahead of you if you sort of like succeed. So yeah, even like the county age group stuff, like they've got so much support in place now. And yeah, like quite a lot of us coach with that as well. So like
Yeah.
like you've got an 11-year-old turning up to train on a Sunday and they've got 3 professional cricketers in front of them. Like again, that was something I never had. I never really had any female cricket role models growing up. I always just played with my brother and with the boys at Rainford and stuff, which again, like
Yeah.
wouldn't change it for the world. Like I loved it. And I often think actually playing men's cricket did help my sort of career. So again, I wouldn't change anything, but yeah, they've got so much support in place now. And it's just brilliant that a young girl can pick up a bat and a ball and think I could do this for a job now, which again, like,
Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah, I never had. But then you could also look at that as in like they might feel a lot more pressure now, whereas I never thought I'd do it for a job. I was just doing it because I loved it. Like, and that might have took the enjoyment out of it for me. You don't know, but yeah, it's good that the option's there for them.
It's probably, yeah, it probably does bring added pressures. In terms of you at your stage in the career, 'cause obviously when you started, it wasn't professional and now it is. How much has your sort of journey, your job in inverted commas changed in terms of preparation, in terms of everything, really? How much has that changed it?
I think to a certain degree, not loads, because I've always, like I said before, I've been like very much like all in. I'm pretty driven. So like throughout my like life, really, I've always done everything I can to try and do well. Um, and I guess that's sort of my philosophy now. Like if I can sort of sit back at the end of my cricket career and think I've done everything I can, like if someone comes
Yeah.
and takes my place, like I'll be pretty content and satisfied with what I've done because I wouldn't have been able to do any more. And yeah, that's sort of the approach I've had from being a youngster, really. So, but I guess like from a pressure point of view, there is a lot more of that now. And like in our team now, there's about 3 or 4 keepers who can bat, and like it's not as easy as me just taking the gloves anymore. It's like there's people breathing down my neck, and if I don't
Yeah.
perform, then like I know I'm captain, but like careers can be short. A lot can change in a year. Like this is a real big season for me coming up, and I'm fully aware of that. And like yeah, there is pressure on me to perform this year, and I guess it's just about sort of trying to thrive off that and not letting it sort of negatively affect me. But yeah, I guess like the more and more the game's growing, the more it's visible, the more people are having digs on social media, this, that, and the other. Like it does become different. But I guess like that is the nature of professional sport, and we can't as players ask to be paid to do this and then not have all of that negative stuff that comes with it. It comes hand in hand. So yeah, I guess it's different, but like it needs to be sort of viewed in a good way, in my opinion.
How do you sort of cope with that social media stuff? Does it affect you in any way or not bothered?
To be honest, I think like at our level, you don't get loads and loads of it. There's like the odd comment
Yeah.
here or there. But yeah, I think like obviously the England girls probably experience it more. But yeah, I always like someone said to me once, never care about what someone says or you wouldn't take advice from. And I think like that's massive, isn't it? Like why do I
Good
care?
advice there.
Yeah, like why would I care what somebody who probably doesn't even play cricket is saying about me? Like I'm not gonna ever like take advice from them. So why do I care what they think of me? And I think as soon as you can let that go, you sort of realise that a lot of these people on Twitter as well, they're like hiding behind things. They don't even have like a profile picture or anything. They're like an egg on Twitter. It's like, so yeah, I guess it's just one of them. Like, obviously, like it always will affect you to some certain degree, but if you can just sort of let go of like what everyone else thinks, it just becomes easy again. Then I guess
that's the answer to the pop psychology question from before as well. Like something that's backed up with theory. That's the one I'm taking away from that. Never take advice, or never listen to someone you wouldn't take advice from.
Nice.
Sort of Henry's lecture.
Like, bringing it back to psychology. No, obviously, speaking about what it was like for you to get into professional cricket sort of 10, 11 years ago. Obviously, the 100's been introduced really recently, and as someone that really likes Test match cricket, like I have to stand against it. But obviously, from a point of view for the women's game, it must have been huge because like now when you're turning it on and at 3:00 on an afternoon, when I'm like, even for me, when I'm not at school or something, like turning the telly on at 3:00 on an afternoon and there's just like people hitting sixes, like it's excellent. I love watching it. What's sort of been the impact of that that you've seen on the women's game, sort of the introduction of the 100?
Yeah, I think it was like a real game changer for us, to be honest. I think obviously like you put on the same pedestal as the men, so everything's equal. You like it's one ticket for 2 games, so hopefully like I've definitely seen like a bigger sort of crowds year on year. I think first year it was sort of like people had come for the second half of our game and then watched the men and stuff. Whereas now it's like people are genuinely there from the start of our game to the end of the men's game. And I'd like to think that that's come with the standard of women's cricket getting better as well. Like people, there is an audience out there who does want to watch it now. And like you're never going to change the minds of everyone, and some people aren't going to ever like women's cricket, and that's fine. But like there are people who do now, and it's like brilliant to see that they actually want to come and watch us play. And yeah, like just the whole sort of like hype around the tournament's just massive to sort of be involved in, and there's just like a real buzz around playing in it. And yeah, I guess like financially, there's a big reward for playing in it as well, especially for the sort of the top brackets, and I think that then like gets you big names into the competition, which then for me as like a domestic cricketer, like playing against like and with some of the best players in the world, it's like huge. Like we had Beth Mooney playing with us last year, and obviously as a keeper batter, like I just spent as much time with her as I could. I was like following her around. She probably thought I was really weird, but I was like just trying to learn as much as I could from her. So yeah, like stuff like that, like you like the experiences you get from just like meeting some of the best cricketers in the world. Like you learn so much, and to be around them and like see how they do things and pick their brains is just brilliant.
And Jacko will be unhappy that I've watched a podcast that isn't Academy North, but I saw a clip of Tammy Beaumont on a podcast a few weeks ago talking about how, from her point of view, she thought that the women's game was based more on skill, certainly in the white ball stuff, than the men's game, because you're relying less on power and just sort of like bumping it over the boundary for 6. I was just interested to see what your thoughts on that were, what your point of view on it is, as someone that's obviously like played women's cricket professionally. I'd like just intrigued to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely like 1,000,000% agree with that 3 years ago. But I think the shift we're seeing in the game now, like girls are training full time, they're getting fit, they're getting strong. People are bowling faster, people are definitely hitting the ball further. Like I remember when we played in the Kia Super League, which was the comp before the 100 started, and the boundaries are about 15 meters long. Like it was ridiculous, but they did that to then try and entice us to hit more sixes and stuff. And I guess it worked to a certain degree. But now you look at the women's IPL, the Big Bash, like they're playing on the men's boundaries and people are hitting sixes like pretty easily. So yeah, I guess like there is definitely elements of skill. You probably do see like more creativity at times because of the lack of pace from bowling, especially against spin. But yeah, I definitely think like the game is moving, and it's quite exciting really, because there's definitely more sort of like a power element of the game coming in the more the game goes on, I guess.
I'm gonna move it on and blow past how old I just felt when Henry said he watched the 100 when he came home from school.
Sorry.
Like that was horrendous. So you touched before on captaining as well. How do you find that? How much do you enjoy the captaincy side of things?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think this will be my 3rd season now coming up. I reckon first year probably struggled a little bit in terms of like, so I got the captaincy at 24, which like I guess in terms of like a cricket career is pretty young, and I like really wanted to do it. I told them I wanted to do it, but then it was quite unexpected for me to get it and do it that year. And I think like obviously knew I had a lot to learn, particularly tactically. So I was quite open-minded with that. But I guess like at the time, like women's cricket was sort of like new in its professionalism. So there was a lot of challenges around creating that professional environment, and that was the one thing I wanted to try and do. And with that came like difficult conversations with people, and like the side of leadership no one really sees, I guess. And just going back to sort of that life balance piece, I reckon I got that quite wrong in the first year as well. Like I said before, I'm very all or nothing. So when I got this role, I was like, struggle to switch off. What else can I do? What can I be doing to try and get the team better? And to a certain extent, probably forgot about my own cricket because I'm very people orientated. So I'm very much like, how can I help other people? Whereas actually to succeed, you've got to be pretty selfish at times. And I probably ignored myself a little bit. But yeah, through experience and had some great mentors along the way and stuff. And our new head coach, Chris Reed, captained and kept at Notts for 10 years. So, I mean, selfishly, he's been amazing. So yeah, like I think I've grown into the role and sort of found my own way of doing things. I think at the start, I was like listening to podcasts, reading books about the people I admired as leaders and trying to be like them. Whereas I think like a massive part of it for me is just like if you're authentic, people respect you more and like you more. And that was something else. Dane Villas said to me, because he was the men's captain at the time, he was like, there's a huge difference in being liked and respected. And I think I was very much trying to get everyone to like me in that first year. Whereas actually, if you've got the respect of the group, whether people like you or not, is pretty irrelevant, really. Like you're there to do a job, you're there to try and win games of cricket for your team. So yeah, like I think I've definitely like grown into the role and got a lot more experience and developed a lot tactically as well. So hopefully can sort of continue getting better, and the squad's shaping up really well. So hopefully go on and sort of lift some trophies in the future.
You made that sound then like year one you were nice to everyone, and since then you've just bollocked everyone pretty much.
No, I've not. I don't think I've got a bollocking in me really. But no, I definitely think like sort of that like people respect you more when you're honest. And I think like in that first year, I'd often like sugarcoat messages to try and come across in like a nice way, whereas actually like people don't want that. Athletes don't want that. They want honesty. Like if they're not playing, they want to know why. And like the more you can do that, you'll keep the respect of the group. And someone might not like you for 20 minutes, but they'll get over it. And actually, if everyone's on the same page about winning trophies, that's the most important thing. And Reedy coming in, his sort of philosophy was like, will it make the boat go faster? And I think that's something that came from like the Olympics. But yeah, just sort of trying to gear everything we do to try and get better. And if it's not making your boat go faster, why are you doing it? And that's been something I keep going back to, and the team seem to have bought into. So yeah, I guess when everyone's on the same page, like it's a lot easier.
You touched upon then the sort of finding the balance between captaining and your own game. Is that something that's got easier with a bit more experience captaining, or is that something that's still pretty difficult, or both?
I think it's definitely got easier, but I had a bit of a tough year with the bat last year, so probably like got nowhere near enough runs than I should have done. And that's something I found really tough, is to try and still lead when you're not performing. So like chats in the dressing room after the game when you feel really flat, like are really, really difficult. And that's where actually like, as much as you've got to be selfish, you've also got to keep bringing it back to the team. And sometimes like me having a bad day, like I can't mope around about that. Like I've got to, like if we bat first innings and I've not got any, like I've still got a huge job to do that day. And that's where, as much as it is about being selfish, you can't be selfish because you've got to think about what the team need. And yeah, I think that's something that like I did pretty well. Like I definitely just was able to park my own performance, but I do think it was also something that was playing on my mind in the background, is that like I'm not contributing, and that was hurting. I was like, I've got a role with the bat here and I'm not doing it. And often we'd lose games and we'd sit in the dressing room and talk about how the middle order aren't contributing, and that was me. So to sit there and speak about that, it's like pretty difficult. But yeah, so I guess it's a sort of balance about like, yeah, you need to perform, but it's also about the team, and yeah, keep bringing it back to that really.
a lot more responsibility. So going back to the start of the podcast, you made us sort of try and give you some sympathy about the weather at home and not being used to it. And since then, it's been 2 weeks in Brazil, Argentina, there's a tour, Dubai and India. So all that sympathy's gone out the window. But that touring life, how different is it being in that environment? How much do you look forward to that? Or how difficult can it be being away from home for so long?
I mean, I absolutely love it. I think like I said this at the beginning, like I love the sun, like I'm happier in the sun. Like I don't really like I don't hate being away from home. I really enjoy it. Like we've got a great set of girls, so being around them, like I like buzz off the company and stuff. I think it gets difficult like in the cricket season when you are like having to like travel long days on a bus. So you'd probably say we're playing in Sussex. It'd take all day to get there. You'd then play, you'd then get back at 2 a.m. the next morning, and then you'd be in for recovery that day. And it's just like this, you're on this like constant treadmill. And it's quite difficult to sort of get off and pause during the cricket season. So I think that's the tough bit. I think touring, everyone would agree with me that it's like the best thing ever because you're just away with your mates, just playing cricket and sun, and it's amazing. But I think like the roller coaster of the season, all them emotions that it puts you on, plus all the travel, can be really, really draining. Yeah.
What's the best thing about touring? I'm going to quick fire you now, put you on the spot.
Obviously the weather, but I think that like the company of everyone. I think like there's just such a good like sort of vibe around the group when you're away. Like it just feels like really like you're just playing cricket with your mates. It's amazing.
I'm just intrigued, Ellie. So obviously, like you've gone to South America like this winter, and that's sort of very, very different to touring somewhere like Australia or India potentially. That's very, very cricket centric. What do you prefer? Certainly from sort of like a going with cricket point of view, have you preferred going somewhere where cricket isn't as big and you're sort of like leading it, or going to somewhere that is obviously like hugely cricket centric with the intention of you playing a series, something like that? Like just sort of what are the differences, and is there a preference there?
Yeah, I think like I quite enjoy trying to get stuck into the culture of wherever I am in the world, which is pretty special and unique wherever you go. I think the sort of how big cricket is in India, like I've never felt that way on a tour. I just think it was so incredible, like the way you'd walk outside and millions of people would just be playing cricket in the street. And it's like that was like a real special sort of like thing I've seen that I've never really seen anywhere else in the world. So yeah, I guess I prefer that because going somewhere like Dubai, like it's obviously very sort of like commercialized and there's not as much culture there, and I think that's the bit that you want to see as well as playing cricket. South America is brilliant for that point of view because I've never been there. It's part of the world I've never been. Obviously, cricket wasn't big there, but obviously, like being in Brazil was just so different. So, like, yeah, I guess it's just about seeing the culture really, and that will just be different everywhere you go.
Did you get to play any footy in South America? I'm just thinking as a footballer going to the streets of Argentina or Brazil or something. Like, was there any sort of street football played? Any beach football, something like that?
We weren't really anywhere near a beach, and it was a little bit. It's not the safest part of the world, so we were quite sort of. They were strict on telling us where we could and couldn't go, and we had a driver to make sure we were getting to places like pretty safe as well, because like taxis and Ubers and things just are a little bit sketchy out there. We did try and get tickets to go and watch some football, and we couldn't end up getting them. But one of our friends out there was saying like, "Oh, it's probably a good job he didn't." Like even then, them games can be pretty like it's not that safe. So we sort of had one eye on safety out there. But as much as like cricket's massive in India, as is football in Brazil and Argentina. So it was pretty good. Like you'd just be out for dinner and there'd be pictures of footballers on the wall in like a random restaurant. Like it was mad.
So, Ellie, before we let you go, we do a little quick fire round at the end. Just before we jump into that, Henry, have you got any assignments you need help with again, or anything Ellie can help you with?
No, I've got all my coursework submitted. I've got exams, but they're just multiple choice, so 25% chance to get it right anyway, isn't it? So, no, I'm all right.
Perfect. So, Ellie, we've got some quick fire questions for you. Some are cricket related and some aren't. So, death row meal. What would your death row meal be?
Steak and chips.
Perfect. Favorite holiday destination?
Mallorca.
Nice. Favorite teammate and why?
I would say Fee Morris. I think recently travelled the world with her. Spent about 12 months travelling the world with her and like lived with her and weren't apart for longer than 5 minutes. And I don't think there's many people in the world I could do that with. And yeah, she's pretty funny as well, so I'll give her that.
I've gone mad. Netflix recommendation? Although you said there might not be much here, might there?
Tough this. I've actually just started watching the Robbie Williams documentary because I saw the film at the weekend. And I'm now all of a sudden really invested in Robbie Williams' life for some reason. So it's pretty good so far.
Fair enough. If you weren't a cricketer, what would you be?
Probably a sports psychologist.
It was either that or footballer, wasn't it? There was one of the two from in there.
I'd have never made it as a footballer. I didn't want to say that.
So we read your bio on the Lancashire website, and it says you were born in Knowsley, and the interesting stat on there, a place made famous for the safari park.
Oh yeah.
So, favourite animal in the safari park then?
Giraffe.
Good answer. Two more. One thing you can't go on tour without?
Tough one. Oh, I always take like one of them balls for the pool, that like skid along the water. So when we have so we get made to do like pool recovery out there, but I always take this ball and we just end up hurling it at each other and it's really fun.
Going back to why giraffe? That was a bit of a random choice.
Yeah, I don't know. It was the first thing that came to my head, really. I'm not really an animal person.
Fair enough. And final one, as we record this, it's just going into the third ODI in the Ashes. Obviously, a disappointing defeat. Predictions, can England get back into it?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is obviously a big game. And then obviously like leading into the T20 series, I think if they win this one, it's like keeping the series alive a little bit. And yeah, they're obviously a brilliant T20 side. So hopefully they can sort of set it up so the test matches all to play for.
Perfect.
Can I just say, by the way,
after
saying you love to get stuck into the culture, picking Mallorca as a favourite holiday destination. What are you getting stuck into out there? I didn't really explain
myself with that, but it's like that's all where we've always gone on family holidays. A lot of family memories there. Nice. And honestly, like after like even like traveling the world, like it's still one of my favourite places. Like it's beautiful out there. So
yeah, I did a wedding in Mallorca in the summer. It was amazing. Yeah, we absolutely loved it. Anyway, Ellie, we will let you get on with the rest of your day. Enjoy the Robbie Williams documentary. But Ellie, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. So we will catch up soon.
Thanks
Thank you very much.
Enjoyed it.